welcome to The Grill, a new series from Saurav Insight. For most of my life, the current decided where I went. I worked hard, but I wasn't the one steering. The series is about learning to steer. I am Saurabh Sharma, an immigrant, a father, and a digital specialist figuring out West London. I haven't figured it all out yet. I'm just a guy in his 40s trying to build. You're hearing my real voice right now, but for the main episode, I use an AI. I'd rather use the technology I have to seep honest thought today than wait for the perfect studio or the perfect moment. This is The Grill. Welcome to the construction site.
Last time I talked about seeking the future, about finally being able to hold my own vision without needing someone else to carry it. But before I could hold a vision, I had to rebuild the person who was going to hold it. This episode is about that process. 2 recoveries, 2 countries, the same person, brewing slowly from the inside and the outside simultaneously. Recovery is not a moment. It is not the morning you wake up and feel different. It is not a single conversation or a single decision that changes everything. Recovery is a slow brew. Weeks and months where nothing looks like progress from the outside, but underneath, something is quietly shifting across every level at once. The body, the mind, the skills, the philosophy, the economics, all of it moving together, slowly, in the same direction. The first person to pull me out of the cloud didn't try to fix me. He just put me to work. My granduncle was a soft skills trainer, a man in his late 70s who walked into boardrooms of airlines and banks and government offices with the energy of someone half his age. Strong coffee in hand, slides prepared, games planned, structure for everything. Everyone in that period had an opinion about where I had ended up. Some judged quietly, some not so quietly. He didn't judge at all. He just handed me a coffee and put me to work. I watched him from the back of the room. 7 and 8-hour sessions. Complete presence, complete preparation, complete enjoyment. And I felt 2 things simultaneously watching him. It is not too late for me, and I, in what should have been my productive years, felt half asleep inside my own life. That tension between possibility and shame became the first crack in the fog. At the same time, running alongside the external work underneath it, a different kind of conversation was happening. Mahasan Pandey, less action-oriented than me, more vision-oriented. We talked for hours about land, about what could grow there, about the long view. He was working with Green Economy Nepal, tree planting on ancestral land, ecological thinking, connecting local practice to global frameworks. That was when the word wellness arrived properly for me, not as a trend, but as a framework for understanding something I had been living since childhood. My maternal grandfather's garden, the fruits from all over the world, the meditation between the plants, the man who lived with nature as a serious practice. Mahasan didn't introduce me to wellness. He gave me the word for something I already knew. We tried to build something together, Banberry. It never fully became a business. Instead, it became a laboratory. During the lockdown, I went deep into it. The backyard garden, rainbow Swiss chard, rosemary, tulsi, mint, lemongrass. Cold showers in the morning, herbal teas brewed fresh from the garden, evening rooftop walks, intermittent fasting, and eventually a 72-hour water fast. By the end of it, I was exhausted, but mentally sharper than I had been in months. What drew me to all of this was not mysticism. It was the same logic I would later apply to the algorithm audit. When you stop consuming food, noise, distraction, the body and the mind begin doing their own maintenance. Autophagy is the biological term for what happens when the body breaks down and recycles its own damaged cells during a fast. Mentally, something similar happens. When passive input slows down long enough, clarity begins to return. You begin to think, rather than simply react. Meditation became part of that same experiment. Not for spiritual achievement, not for anything abstract, simply to practice arriving in the present moment before the day began, to notice when the mind had drifted, and bring it back. That is the whole practice. Not exotic, not dramatic, just the discipline of returning to where you actually are. I also became more intentional about what I allowed into my attention. stepping back from passive consumption, spending more time with ideas around presence, focus, and awareness. Not as a follower, and as a student trying to understand how attention shapes reality. I still return to many of those practices now. Not perfectly, not every day with strict discipline, but consistently enough that they became part of how I move through the world. Recently, 2 weeks of 1 meal a day, followed by another 3-day water fast. The same practices, continued. The body and the mind maintained together. The same way you maintain anything you want to keep working properly. Banberry was not just a brand idea. It became a way of testing whether I could live the things I was talking about. Building without walking the talk feels like constructing a structure without a foundation. The body and the mind are not separate projects. You rebuild both at once or neither properly. While the inner work was happening quietly, the outer work was building skills I didn't yet know I would need. A role at a banking and financial services training institute. Instead of calling and emailing, I went in person. I sat with HR managers and asked them what their actual training needs were. What were the gaps? What were the staff struggling with? What did the organisation need but hadn't yet found? You don't arrive with a solution. You arrive with a question. And alongside all of this, an IT startup, a relative in the USA, local clients, then international, then lockdown, then recruitment, finding contract positions for IT professionals at Apple, JP Morgan, Google, Nike, and Lululemon. I started noticing the earning potential of the people I was placing. The numbers were extraordinary, and I was spending the same hours, the same energy. You was hammered to earn a fraction of what they earned. With the same time, I could do so much more, somewhere else. Once you do that calculation honestly, it is very hard to stop. The night job continued, then the wedding. My wife came with her own dream, to go abroad, to earn, to build something in a bigger space. Then a casual conversation with a cousin brother in the UK changed everything. Care work visas, a consultancy. Someone looked at me and said, "Why don't you apply?" I said, "Me? I stopped my education 10 years ago." She said, "Don't worry, score 6.5 in IELTS, appear for the interview." I took the challenge. 6 months later, I was in West London. The brew that had been slow and quiet in Nepal arrived in London ready to be poured. The London recovery started in the margins of the day. Wembley Kitchen, the shared house, Great West House, small lessons, real ones. But the moment the platform became real happened at 3:30 in the morning. My wife and daughter were sleeping. The flat was quiet. Headphones on. GarageBand open on my laptop. I had been exploring what generative AI could do. Then I discovered Substack. Then I realized a blog post could become a podcast. And eventually, I made a commitment. Once a month minimum. No excuses. That morning, 3:30 a.m., headphones on, baby sleeping, I finished the first episode. Not my voice speaking. The AI voice reading my words back to me while I listened. And I felt one thing. At least I have something ongoing. Not triumph, not euphoria, just quiet, steady, forward movement. The feeling of a person who had been trying to build something for 20 years, finally having something that was actually running. One more piece of the London rebuild belongs here. The algorithm audit. An experiment in clearing space. Stop the passive consumption. See what remains when the feed goes quiet. But the more important question is, what do you fill that space with after the clearing? Structured learning? Serious podcasts? Long-form reading? The MSC material? AI conversations? The writing? The series? The work? The audit does not make you productive. It removes what was preventing you from being present. That distinction, clearing versus building, is the difference between a digital detox and an actual change. Most people clear the space and drift back to the same consumption within weeks. Building something intentional inside that space is what makes the clearing permanent. That is what the algorithm audit is really for. 2 recoveries. Different tools, different countries, same direction. Both were slow, both were unglamorous. Neither looked like progress from the outside, but the soil had been prepared. And prepared soil doesn't announce itself. It just grows things when the conditions are right. Next time. Where I am now, the construction site, live. What has been built, what is still scaffolding, and what the whole thing is actually for. I'm Saurav, this is The Drill. I'll see you next episode.